Hello, my name is Debbie Boone, and I want to welcome you to my podcast, The Bend, where we explore how successful people navigated the path and emerged in a better place when life threw them an unexpected twist. It's inspired by one of my favorite sayings: the bend in the road is not the end of the road unless you fail to make the curve. These conversations will hopefully help you and inspire you to embrace your personal bend and to flourish. I hope you enjoy it, and if you need help with your own personal navigation and you're in veterinary medicine, please feel free to reach out to me at Debbie Boone 2 Manage Vets Consulting. Enjoy the bend and be inspired by our wonderful guest. Welcome. All right, welcome everyone to today's episode of The Bend, where we ask our guests to share some of their monkey wrenches, curves in the road, unexpected changes that life throws them, and how that all played out in the long run. So today I want to welcome my guest, Linda Wiedel. Now, Linda started out in a vet med as an emergency tech, and then she moved to management. So she's had that pleasure. And then she started working for a company called Nordhealth, which is kind of new to the United States, with a great new software, which I personally really am impressed with, called Provet Cloud. And she is now the implementation team lead for the North American division of that company, because this is a company that's in 15 countries, right? If I'm not mistaken. So it's not a new software company, it's just new to the US software company. So Linda, welcome to The Bend. How are you this morning?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's a great
Sure.
day.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's ahead.
Well, I look forward to hearing your story. So tell us, what's your origin story? How did you pick vet med?
I think vet med chose me. So I was volunteering with a giant breed local rescue group. And I happened to have a bloodhound come my way. And through him, he kind of chose my path for me, I suppose, as I think many pets do. I came in contact with another veterinarian who owned a bloodhound. And for those of you who've had a bloodhound and had the pleasure of interacting with them, they are definitely a very quirky breed. You love them for all those quirks. You don't see them too commonly, but so when you do find someone that you can sympathize with all the fun struggles of owning the breed, you really definitely quickly hit it off. And she was looking to hire some more staff on for her clinic. So I happened to bond with her really well and was fortunate enough to be hired onto her team. And I was trained in, did not have any veterinary background, but spent 10 years with her. So really had a long journey growing in that industry and definitely enjoyed it.
Great. Now, did you go and get your license? Are you your RVT, LVT, CVT?
I'm actually not licensed since I was trained all on the job and could do all the skills, right? So I was actually responsible for training and the management, everything like that. And was just very fortunate enough to have somebody who could mentor me, right, and really demonstrate those skills and that gold standard that we like to see in veterinary medicine, and allow me to continue forward in developing those skills in my career, obviously with, even onward into the future with Nordhealth now.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about getting into management. One of the things that I've seen a lot is you're really great at technical skills, or you're really great as a CSR. And we go, oh, good, you can manage my hospital.
Yeah.
And you don't get any training about management. And this is my experience with a lot of managers, but they were just really good at what they were doing before. Is that your situation?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate in the veterinary industry that a lot of us grow into that career path. It's typically not something that I think we go out seeking and apply for. Again, the path chooses us. That very naturally, as you continue to develop those skills, build that network, essentially just grow, right? You very naturally grow with the practice, and it's an easy alignment. For everybody, there's always some level of professional development that we're trying to be better at. So I think to your point, right, some of us are very much more the IQ based, the technical side. We like that science and logic. And for some of us, we're really great EQ leaders. So we do really well with the human side of understanding the emotional interactions of that. For me, I'm very much more the technical side that I have a natural affinity towards. So practicing and learning some of those skills of the emotional leadership, relating different communication and work styles, definitely something that I needed to practice, right? And every day was not the best at it, but I do try to be better every day to do better for the team. And it's a very rewarding career path, investing in the team. And I think the team in turn invests in you and takes care of you, and you all grow together. So seeing everybody move as a collective and that momentum building, is a really unique experience if you've been in it. And if you haven't, I would definitely encourage you towards it.
My lifelong philosophy that if you take care of your team takes care of your business.
Absolutely.
And so many people are, micromanagers, or they're this dictator that's top down management,
Or
and it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. I mean, you can drive people out of fear, but they never give you their best if they're constantly just waiting for the shoe to drop, so to speak.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
really leadership is the key word there versus even management, right? Where for me, it's training to lead, developing those independent skills. You should need me in theory if I'm doing my job correctly for
Yeah.
you. Over time, you should need less of me because you have developed your own skills and you've
Yeah.
grown. You have those discovery, critical thinking skills. You potentially have a team under you that you're leading as well, right? And I think as
Exactly.
a leader, that's always a very successful moment to see others moving into those positions where now they're leading as well. So
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. My boss looked at me one day, and I'd managed the hospital for 19 years. And this was about 15 years in. And he went, "If you ever quit, I'm coming after you with a shotgun." And I said, "If I ever quit and I've done my job right, you'll never know I'm gone,
yep.
because everybody here knows what they're supposed to
Mhm.
do, and they'll just keep doing it." And that's
Yep.
exactly what happened when I left. Some of those people are still there, and they knew their jobs, and they just kept running the practice. And so sometimes being a manager is letting go, and
Mhm.
that's hard, because
Yeah.
you want to control everything. You think you're the only one who can do stuff, but over the
Quite
years,
the
I've
opposite.
found out that sometimes people do stuff better than you, and sometimes that's a bitter pill to swallow. It's like, oh, I didn't think of that. They're much better at this than I am. So you got to turn loose and let them do it. That's the
Yeah. Giving them the space to be themselves, right? And
exactly.
everybody has their own leadership style. They have their own background experiences, and that's valuable. That I've said it for my team. They know this a time or two, right? That I hope they come to me over the course of, the near future and say that actually this works like this now, or, actually maybe this is a better way to do this.
Mhm.
And that challenge of perspective is not something I think to be intimidated by and to be afraid of. I think it's really a growing and learning point that it's cool to see a team that is there with you to have that conversation, that can offer you that we're thinking about that. So for me, that's something to reward and not be afraid of as leadership, right? That
Great. I think
we
it's
really want to
very
see everybody coming with us on this journey, and
do.
it's a
You
collective
want people
movement.
excited and engaged about the work, and making things better, and building better processes, and not just kind of coming in, checking in the clock, and doing the, just the
Sure.
bare minimum and walking out the door. So tell us a little bit about your curveballs in life. How did life throw you
Ooh.
a curveball, and what has been some of your toughest challenges?
So definitely hard to choose one, but I think one of the bigger ones that stands out that might be a more interesting story. So it was the lovely year of 2019, probably my highest moments in mountain biking, which is one of my favorite side passion hobbies, right? Kind of you're on that high of nothing can go wrong and life is just great. And suddenly had a very idiopathic high fever episode, right? Which is an adult to just out of nowhere. And this is pre-COVID time, right? So definitely just out of the blue, feeling unwell to that level was strange, very strange. I went to the doctor a few times, right? We're in veterinary medicine. Do I have lepto? Do I have
You
what's
start
going on? You kind of work.
zoonotic diseases are running through your head, right? Yeah.
Yes, most definitely, right? Like, have I contracted something strange? Should I not be at work? Was cleared over and over. No, you're fine. I was like, I really don't feel fine. Are we sure? And I'm one of those that, in 10 years, maybe called out sick once, right? Where this is, it's very much out of character. So after being reassured several times that I'm fine, finally one evening just had really painful abdomen. I was like, gosh, I mean that wine pairing dinner was amazing, but I don't think I ate that much like Thanksgiving discomfort. So I ended up going back to urgent care, and it turns out that I have a murderous kidney, and my kidney had been trying to murder me for like 6 months, very subtly.
Oh,
Um, so yeah, I had a kidney stone that obstructed my ureter, so between the
oh,
kidney and the bladder, which then, right, the kidney still does what the kidney does. Good old reliable
yeah.
kidney, trying to process out toxins, and that doesn't work out when it can't go anywhere. So finally, it came to a critical point that I did have a 105 fever, and I was admitted to the emergency room.
Wow.
That's kind of when everybody figured out what was going on and quite how serious this whole situation had been
Mm,
all this time, which is a bit of a scary realization, right? That you'd been kind of trucking along. This whole time, it like any moment, right? I live in
yeah.
Colorado, so you could have been out hiking up 14 hours away from medical care.
Oh, yeah.
Everything just happened really, really quickly. Fortunately, right? I'm still here.
Hmm.
Um, so murder's kidney did not win, but yeah, it was a really scary time being admitted to the hospital. Just then suddenly figuring out what was going on. Had emergency surgery, which was really just a stabilization effort. Because I was critical at that point, like septic, 105 fever, tachycardic, just
Wow.
not doing great. So it was a very shocking time, right? And not just for yourself, but your family, friends, others as well.
Mm,
Right, those that care about you. It is a very sudden thing. As soon as something as serious as possible death is on the table.
yeah.
But yeah, fortunately, things went well. Recovery definitely took some time, not just physically, but also right emotionally.
Yeah.
Definitely
So
a
did you have
curveball
to
of
have a
not
kidney
thinking.
removed?
Not yet, but if it tries to murder me again,
Oh,
it's on the
yeah.
table. But yeah, so fortunately right now it's just monitoring and prophylactic care just to ensure that that doesn't happen again. And in conversations with the doctors, realized something similar had happened about 10 years prior that just went undiagnosed at that time and
Yeah.
was less serious, but was the same thing.
Wow.
So now we know that
Now we
it's
know.
only
We're
my
gonna
right
we're
one,
gonna
my right murderous
watch.
kid, my left one behaves,
Yeah.
which is
Watch that
unfortunate.
right kidney. Watch that right
Yeah, I didn't
kidney.
even know this was a thing, and it's apparently very rare
Yeah.
for women, especially of my age. So it's go figure.
Yeah. Wow. So
But
that
yeah,
had
it
to
was definitely
be,
a curveball.
yeah, that had to be frightening. So how did you,
Mhm.
thinking about how paralyzing fear can be, how did you kind of overcome the fear and keep moving forward?
Yeah, I think fortunately I have an amazing support system. So as far as friends who really like to challenge boundaries, and have been through traumatic events themselves, especially again being in Colorado, the outdoors,
Hmm.
and all sorts of adventures that you can get into, but also those can become very serious very quickly. So fortunately, I have a supportive friend group who definitely can sympathize and understand with events of that magnitude.
Hmm.
Because I think that is, it's pretty serious that there is a relatability there. So fortunately, I had them encouraging me along, helping me with follow-up visits, encouraging me, even if it was just to leave the house and go for a small walk, right? Really, it's just the kind of little day-to-days of trying to reestablish that routine.
Hmm.
Um, for me, again, taking time off of work is not the norm. So even not going to work to rest was very strange. That yeah, I believe was the next day that I went into work for a couple of hours and I was like, I just need my normal routine for a little here.
Yeah.
I can't do anything strenuous, but I can answer the phone. And that was really reassuring to have still try to participate in the normal routine, even if it was at a slower pace, right? And it was great that my clinic was very supportive of that. Even the clients were very, very
Yeah.
supportive. So that was really cool. And I think over time you really do start to bond with your clients at the
Oh,
clinic and become a
absolutely.
family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Like I'm a
yeah.
breast cancer survivor and
Oh,
I
wow.
got so many cards from clients because I'd been
Hmm.
at the hospital a long time. And it was just wonderful. I mean, people that I didn't think even knew who I was really um, offered all this support. And I can remember to this day, we had this client who was 80, but she was always just beautifully dressed, hair perfect. Her name was Ms. Alberti. And she called me over the counter and she said, Debbie, I understand you have a little problem. And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, I had this same problem when I was 60 and again at 70, and today I'm 80. So you'll be all right. And that was just such a reassurance to me that, somebody lived through it. There she was standing in front of me looking great, having a great life. And so the survivor that stands in front of you is often the best thing that you can possibly see.
Relatable, sure.
When you have people who've gone through, these tough medical problems and even just kind of tough life problems, which is really about what this whole all these episodes are about of the Bend. So you were managing the hospital at the time you were ill. What was the jumping off point that kind of made you move out of management and into technology? You told me you loved it, the tech part of it you love. So
it was a difficult decision, right? So tying off that last conversation, those clients become your family essentially, right? You're there for them during their difficult times, and they really appreciate being there in return, right? That's the best I think they can offer back. And you'll find that they've gone through similar things. The number of kidney stone stories I heard after that was impressive. And I was like, oh wow, I feel like I just did a survey of our clientele with kidney stone issues. But for me, it is one of those moments where it really makes you step back for a second, and just evaluate the importance. Who was there for you during that time, right? And it was your clients and which friends and which family, and who understood that. We're all going through our own journeys and experiences and highs and lows, and we're all just human. So right to your conversation of it's just relatable to have others that we connect with through that. So really as a recovery point, that was something that I focused a lot on as far as spending time in ways that felt valuable and with people that I appreciated. So I actually went to visit one of my good friends in Texas and spend some time with her. And she knew of a position open with Nordhealth, working with Provet Cloud. And so she actually referred me. So by happenstance of the whole murderous kidney, putting me on the path to go visit her, to connect with her. I hadn't seen her in a couple of years. It put me on path here with Provet Cloud and Nordhealth. And fortunately, we also have her on our team as well now. So that was a cool little intricate journey. And I had met her in clinical life years past. So how our paths have kind of ebbed and flowed and snaked together, and you end up somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think the technology side, a lot of us in the veterinary industry don't think we're as technology savvy as we might be, especially if you're in a leadership management position. I think a lot of what you do is fixing anything that can break at any given point in time, whether the dryer's on fire, the Keurig's not working, who knows what the autoclave is doing. It's always something that you're trying to reconnect and problem solve and troubleshoot. And really, I think you're most successful when you see those as challenges just to overcome and work through and find a solution. And that very much aligns with the roles right throughout Provet Cloud and how we're working with our customers to find solutions, that these are, just challenges that we're going to find a solution for and we're going to overcome. Why is the printer not connecting?
Yeah.
Let's go figure it out, right?
Let's figure it out.
Technology is great, but also
so true. What you said about the manager. I mean, honestly, there is so much stuff that I fixed that I had no intention of ever knowing how to fix, including putting a new motherboard in our server.
Or that you knew could break, right?
Yeah, I mean, and you're on the phone with support like this, and you're trying to do stuff over here like this. They're going to look at this.
For a nail trim while yeah.
At the same time. And when we put our server in, we put it up high because we thought, oh good, it won't have dust, it won't have fur.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing this on a ladder, trying to fix it on a ladder. I went, oh my gosh, this was a mistake to put it up this high towards the ceiling. So now I'm repairing things up here on a 4-foot step stool trying to get this stuff done.
And that's kind of just the role, right? And I loved it. I enjoyed it, right? That let's figure this out together. I'm sure there's a solution. I don't know what it might be yet, but we're going to figure this out. And you really develop skills that you never had planned to, but I think they really translate very nicely no matter where you decide to take your career forward.
So when you were making this decision, I mean, I'm sure there was a lot of, do I want to stay where I am? I'm the manager. Nobody tells me what to do kind of stuff. I'm going into something that's completely different from what I'm used to. What was that process? Did you make lists? Did you kind of do it in your head? Was it a gut reaction that said, "Oh, this is going to be the next big thing for me"? How did you make that decision?
There's definitely a lot of tears, a lot of tears. Again, spent a lot of time there. It's very close with the owner, the veterinarian, the clients, right? It was just such a home. But I think when we find ourselves in those moments of almost complacency and when we're most scared to jump is usually for me been an indication of when you need to jump. You're ready to jump, right? There's a push to do more. And for me, I always enjoy that discomfort of something new, right? Like that experience, right? For better or worse, it's still an experience, and to me, that's truly living life to the fullest, and that's when I feel most complete,
Mhm.
right? So doing something that I wasn't sure about, that I didn't necessarily maybe know how to do, but trusting that I could figure it out and having that confidence in myself, having that confidence in the team, that there was resources around me to help me through it. Really was a reassuring point. It definitely was bittersweet. I'm still very, very good friends with everybody at the clinic and go visit them at least weekly, especially the clinic cats. So it's, I think, a hard thing to entirely step away from. I think it's one of those spaces that you build lasting friendships and relationships and networks. And it really is a close knit community that you very quickly find each other, in places you didn't expect in the future.
It's true.
So it can
Yeah.
be nervous, like very nerve wracking decision to make. A whole lot of tears happened the time that I gave my resignation, but we're still very, very, very good friends.
Mhm.
And I don't have regret because it's definitely put me on another path. And I was fortunate that everybody at the clinic was very supportive of that.
Mhm.
Um, and you
Yeah,
never
when
know
you
where your
said
future
something,
path comes back around to.
yeah,
So
you said something about taking a leap, and are you a downhill competitive skier? That's a
I
leap
ski, but
I
more
won't
so
take.
mountain biking. So I'll keep like the arms down because you'll see all the scars. But yeah, mountain biking. So I coach mountain biking, primarily do downhill and free ride. So the more
Yeah. So
high speed, high
you're a
risk.
risk taker out there in the world
Yes.
as an athlete too. So that's an indication of your personality is that you're going to like take that leap, and
You're
that's
gonna take that big jump,
yeah,
yeah,
you're
and
going to
and
take that
again,
jump.
that's when I feel most alive and like
Yeah.
this is what life truly is and what it should feel like, and I think that's different for everybody.
Hmm.
So whatever that feeling is for you, we spend so much time involved with our careers that for me, I think it's just such a happier path when you're passionate and involved with that, and it's where you want to be, and you're finding some sort of growth and satisfaction out of that. So that's a very fortunate thing that I had at the clinic and as well now working with Nordhealth.
Tell me what you consider to be your biggest career mistake.
Oh, that's a hard one. That's a good one, Debbie. I think we all have those moments where you do wonder. I mean, to that point, yes, I will take on, I think, a lot of risk and I'll jump when it's scary. But I think also there's been a lot of times where I've convinced myself I couldn't do something, just even over the 10 years of learning how to do various skills. Or like, I remember learning to intubate and place a catheter and thinking back on it now, and it's very easy to go, that's so easy. Why was I so nervous? Why was I like so hesitant and really, didn't jump as quickly into it as maybe I could have? I think it's very natural to be fearful of something that's new. You're worried about impressing your leadership or doing it well. And obviously, there's care for the pets that you want to do this well. You don't want to make a mistake. You don't want any harm to come out of anything. Unfortunately, right? That everything turned out okay and turns out I can do it and it was
Yeah.
great. So really those little moments of self-doubt and how much we put value into those, and listening to those around us who are encouraging us in that direction, who have a different unbiased perspective of, no, you can do this, right? And I wouldn't give you this so I didn't think you could do it.
Mhm.
And very quickly, I think when you start to build that confidence, it spirals into a momentum that's really cool to see when you look back on of how far suddenly you came. So I think more and more trusting in your confidence, trusting in the opinions of those around you, encouraging for growth. And again, those moments of doubt and nervousness and when you don't want to jump is usually when you need to jump.
That's true. And that, you know what? That is absolutely the truth. And there's so many times, and other people see it before you do a lot of times,
Mhm.
because I can remember my first big speaking engagement, oh my gosh, 2005. And it was my Novartis sales rep that pushed me. They said, you can do this. And so it was this great opportunity to go and speak in front of 500 veterinarians
Oh,
in
wow.
Puerto Rico and have all the expenses paid. My husband got to go too. I'm like, this is the best gig I've ever had in my life.
Mhm.
But it was so intimidating that I think I practiced like all night long. I couldn't sleep at all. And when I got up, sitting there in front of the podium, I thought I was going to throw up. And now I've given so many talks, I could stand in front of a crowd and give a speech without
Yeah,
even thinking about anything.
absolutely.
But looking back on it, that first one is still burnt into my brain.
Oh, I
How,
remember being afraid to
oh,
answer the telephone, to even talk to clients on
oh,
the
yeah.
phone. Like it was, and to see, I'm sure my team would be surprised now to see the level of comfort training and communicating with customers and, everybody within the company, leadership of different levels, right? That
Mhm.
it's really is a remarkable point when we start to trust and lean into that confidence and
Yeah.
move with that through life. So,
Yeah. And and I think one of the things that you do, and when I was managing hospitals, we used Cornerstone and I
mhm,
had my person, right? But I had been a user since like way back, like when it was AVS, before it was even Cornerstone and PSI
mhm.
combined, all that. And I had my person. And so Nancy, I would call not talk to anybody but Nancy. So I'm sure that you're like somebody's person when they call it. No, I only want to talk to Linda because she just knew stuff and she was really good at guiding me through it and making basically a language I did not understand, which is IT, um, sensible to me. And I think that's probably a big challenge because there are people out there who have so many different skill levels and knowledge of
Mhm.
working with their technology and or having no technology background whatsoever. And I mean, you're moving people from paper charts
Mhm.
into paperless. So that's a big learning curve for them, not for you, but definitely for them. Um,
Sure.
how do you feel like you are managing that? I mean, what's your best tip to communicate with people about something they really don't have a knowledge about? Because we do it all day in vet med, right? We talk to people about
Mhm.
medicine and they don't know about medicine.
Yeah, again, that we're all talking in essentially different languages, right? So to your point that when we're talking about pets care, what's being administered, even a vaccine, we talk in abbreviations, DA2, PPV.
Yeah.
That means absolutely nothing for a customer of like, what are you giving? Why do I care about this? When do I have to get it again? Can it hurt my pet? Like, what side effects are there? Right. It's kind of thinking beyond just the immediate moment of what we're trying to say and what really is the message we're trying to ultimately share across the table. The roles of working with software and relaying that over to our customers in clinic, right, our end users, very similar. Easy to say, your network and your printer and this and that and IP addresses, right? And it's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very much
Oh, yeah. So
just
one
to
of my
say the
IT
least
guys
for our
said one
clients.
day, "Oh, we need to ping the server," and I went, "Jeff,
What is any of that? What
you
do
need to
I?
take that back down for me."
Yep. And I think that's part of where clinics trust and lean into the expertise of the team from, for example, Provet Cloud and Nordhealth here that they're working with, that we're going to help you through that, right? We're going to have those conversations and make sure that we're engaging in a relatable way, that what we're asking of you, whether that's talking about a workflow, whether that's talking about how you have your network configured or hardware, your lab equipment, right? That we're going to go through all those details because that helps us discover how do you work. Every clinic is so unique,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're coming from another PIMS, paper records, or you're a new startup, right? And I think especially now coming out of COVID, we're seeing a lot more of that mobile fluid
Mm-hmm.
veterinary medicine.
Mm-hmm.
So even what was veterinary medicine 5, 10 years ago, right, is not what veterinary medicine is today, which is great. We want to continue to see that growth. We want to continue to see that expansion. And what is the gold standard for care of pet? So I think that a lot of the skills you learn in clinic very naturally translate to the roles that you'll see with support and implementation, especially working with the end users and those customers. Envisioning, right, and connecting. Here's what Provet Cloud can offer you. Here's how it works. From what you've described, here's how I see these two coming together and what would be a benefit, right, and the relatability piece there. Because to your point, everybody has a valuable background and experience, and we have different skill sets that we naturally excel at. And it's leaning into those.
Mhm.
That some people are really great with reporting or stock management, or they really like processes or the human resources and the team management side of things. And I think Provet Cloud has something to offer against each of those. So regardless of how your team is organized, your workflows, the structure of your clinic, what you really, really enjoy doing, we're there to support you through all of it, right? And look at it in a bigger picture, even of here's where I'd like to see you grow to in 6 months and what I'm already envisioning for you and how we can help get you there, right?
Mhm.
That it's not just what are we doing today, what are we doing in the future as well, right? How can we continue to build this relationship to help support you as well?
Don't you wish you could spend more time with your patients and less time on paperwork? Are inefficiencies making the workday longer and more stressful? Well, it's not you. It's your software. How about a practice management system that responds to the way you want to work? Provet Cloud by Nordhealth offers flexible features and limitless integrations so you can choose the tools you need to simplify your day. And with Provet Cloud, you'll get training and support from actual veterinarians and technicians who understand your challenges. Don't settle for subpar software. Visit provet.cloud/boone to schedule your demo and save 15% on Provet Cloud when you sign up.
Yeah, I'm going at the end of September to the Veterinary Innovation Summit, and I always love to go out there because the technology that is coming into the veterinary profession is incredible. And some of it's a little frightening, to be honest
Yeah,
with you.
it's
But
hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's so much potential for integration with
Mhm.
wearables and people artificial intelligence reading our x-rays and our pathology
Mhm.
reports for us, and that's just as the beginning. I mean, we haven't even scratched the surface on what technology will do. And so
Mhm.
having things that talk to each other and have the capacity of integrating together, and the other thing is making it easy because we don't have staff, we don't have enough
Mhm.
people to do and to take a lot of time to try to figure out, how to get this stuff to work. We need to make it easy for us to work. And I think that for me, looking at staffing shortages, the utilization of technology is how we're going to be able to manage a lot of our staffing shortages, because we've got to take what I keep calling the monkey work off of human beings and
Mhm.
put that into technology, and then only stuff that people can do needs to be done by humans. I mean,
Sure.
that client one-on-one, the stuff that we've been talking about building those relationships with clients and creating trust there so that they listen, and then doing the hands-on work that is
Mhm.
required of animal care is where we need to leverage our people. Um, and so I'm excited about the things that are coming, and I can't wait to go to the VIS to find out what's the new stuff that's coming down the pike, because it'll come out there and then 4 years later we'll see it in clinic. So
Yeah.
I'm really excited to see what's happening out there. So let's talk a little bit about networking. And I mean,
Mhm.
obviously your friend connected you with this job that you have now, but in your career, how do you feel networking with others has helped you get to where you are today?
I think especially in the veterinary industry with how tight knit it can be, right? You go through some rough days, right? And I think that team that you go through it with, you're the closer for it. And I think the best we ever ask of each other is just to show up and do our best each day. That's not always going to be peak performance. We all have, personal lives and things that are going on outside of work. But really, I think just through the natural events that you go through on a day to day, right? The loss of a pet, like those are very bonding and emotional moments.
Mhm.
Um, and so through that, I was doing relief work also at another emergency clinic to cover some swing shifts to help them out, which I was, had a good referral from a relief doctor who happened to that we hired on at the daytime practice as well. So it's a very small world of others stepping in to help out in other small places that very quickly you become good friends. And everybody has natural movement in their life. And I think through those close relationships, right, by just showing up and doing your best, right, and helping each other and being supportive, really that positive collaborative environment, it leaves a lasting impression with others. And so if they ever find themselves in a place of, hey, it'd be really like they look back, right? And they remember those moments of like, hey, it'd be really great to have this person on our team. I think that this person would do really well.
Mm-hmm.
I remember those skill sets and what that, how she handled this or how he did that in that moment. And it's really in those small moments, I think, that leave a lasting impression with others, that you've built those relationships that people come back to and they lean on and they appreciate what you did in those moments.
Oh, yeah.
And are happy to kind of pull you into those other paths into the future. So you never quite know, I think, what the future holds.
Yeah.
Even I think just when you thought you got it all sorted out,
there is a bend in the road.
Start over. Here we go.
Yeah, there is. And you make the reference. This is really a small profession. If you look at it, I think I read maybe yesterday, there's 76,000 working veterinarians in our community. And in the big scheme of things, that's not very many people. And in some way, shape, or form, we all have some kind of connections, either through sales reps we have in common, or we worked here, we went to school together, or, I know the consultant who worked with your hospital works with my hospital. So there's all those little connections in there. And I think it's so important, if you plan on staying in this profession, to realize to not burn your bridges. If you are unhappy somewhere, then it really behooves you to be the professional and say, I'm not happy here and I'm going to quit, but I'm going to work a notice and I'm not going to burn that bridge. I'm not going to leave a negative taste in anybody's mouth, because I never know how that's going to come back to play out in a really important time when there's something out here I would really love to do. And maybe that person has now moved in. One of my friends is Stacy Purcell, and Stacy owns a company called the Vet Recruiter. It's probably one of the top recruiting companies in vet med. She told a story about this man who went to work or was offered a job at a bank, accepted the job. He was supposed to come to work. They bought him a laptop. They got his name plaque on his, this is like an executive. Business cards, the whole 9 yards, and he doesn't show up his first day at work. And they call his home thinking he's been in an accident, hoping he's okay. His wife said, oh, didn't he tell you? He decided to stay where he was. So he ghosted this bank. Well, the next few months went by, and the bank bought out his bank. The one he was supposed to go to work for bought out his bank. And there he was. And of course, the first thing they did was fire him, because he had ghosted them in his other position and behaved so badly, so unprofessionally, by not informing them that he was going to stay where he was. So, you never know who and where people are going to end up. And so it's always good to be professional yourself for your own good. And just because it's the right thing to do, doesn't matter how anybody else has treated you, just do the right thing for yourself and hold your head high, because you can always look back and go, well, I was the better person, no matter what.
And general life philosophy, right? Just being very genuine in your interactions and having good intention, and life will definitely throw you a curveball. And trusting that your team will be there to support you and understand, and, doing the best you can to communicate that, we all have our hiccup moments and we try to do our best, but, I think having that reassurance, if you did your best and you communicated and you very genuinely were present and had good intentions, will carry you a long way. And that does shine. It's very obvious to people. So definitely a value that we stress, when I was in leadership at the clinic, and even now, right, with Nordhealth. And we're very, very fortunate to have leadership and an entire team that also aligns with those values and encouraging that, right?
Yeah, I mean,
days are bumpy, right? I think just the best we can do is, as a whole, how do we move about our days and engage with everybody? And you never know when that small moment has a lasting ripple effect on them.
It's true. I mean, just a small act of kindness could make the whole difference in somebody's day. And why not? I mean, I'm one of those people who talks to people in the airport, and people look at me and go, oh my God, you're one of those people. I went, yes, I am. But I have had so many enjoyable, amazing conversations with fascinating people sitting beside me on airplanes. And I'm sure the people around me would probably like to hit me on the head, but I do a good job as a listener, because I'm so fascinated with what people do and the opportunities you never know. So I've spoken to people who changed the tires at NASCAR races.
Yeah.
And I talked to, for about an hour and a half, the person who led the troops into Desert Storm. He was the
Oh,
commander.
wow.
And so I had an opportunity to ask somebody at that level, how do you lead people into battle when they know they could die? And he said, training and trust. And I went, wow, that's the same thing in vet med. If you want to lead a team, train them and then build that trust relationship and they'll follow you, right? So some really great conversations from just being interested in other people. And we are a profession of introverts. Sometimes that's a challenge.
Whether we like to admit it or not.
It's true.
Yes.
It's true. I laugh and call us the intellectual introverts. We're like super smart and really like animals better than humans. And so here we are in a business that is very involved with people, and that's much more involved than we probably ever expected.
It's an irony, isn't it?
It is. It is an irony. So, thinking about you, like you came in basically as a client with your bloodhound and then got into working in the back of the hospital. Were you surprised at how much human interaction was required of being an assistant tech in the back?
Definitely over the course of years, you don't quite realize what all goes into it, right? For I think the customer, for it to feel just like a simple, seamless, they know what they're doing experience. That's what we hope for. Where in the background, there's a lot of cogs, a lot of wheels, a lot of things moving, right?
Oh,
We've
absolutely.
short staffed, somebody's sick today. There's a back order on a product. We had an emergency come in, a lot of things you're juggling and really trying to keep that medicine human, right? On top of, right, to your point of introverts, that we, I think, very much easily bond with those that don't necessarily communicate back with us. And we're able to see that communication, right? The body language of understanding a pet that can't tell us, my stomach hurts, but they're hunching their back, right?
Yeah.
And you have those veterinarians that are so attuned into reading body language of ears and posture, tails, feet, how the smallest, the way our eyes look, right? The dog's eyes look. Really an amazing skill set when you come down to it, like what a veterinarian is actually asked to do
Yeah.
off of very little information and something that can't communicate back with
Exactly.
you.
Exactly.
Blood work, collecting blood samples can be, challenging in themselves, especially a pet that's not feeling well or that's really, really painful. And you're just there trying to help. You have an owner that's obviously worried, right? So there's a lot that goes into the average visit. And I think this is within the industry well known, and there's been an increase in communication and movement around it to recognize that. There's a lot that people put into that, and it's very emotionally and mentally investing. And really, what are we doing to give back to those teams to make sure they're looked after? And I think it when you have those clinics that are, again, they have a great leadership team that's supportive. The clients like being there and they see that as well, and they're happy to give back, right? Even if it's something small, if they'll drop off cinnamon rolls every,
Oh, yeah.
holiday season that they baked and tamales, and those little gestures really do go a long way to the team as far as feeling recognized, right? And we're very much happy to go above and beyond, right? We stay late, come in early, work through a lunch hour, juggle multiple appointments just to make sure those pets are taken care of. I think a very unique industry. It's very fascinating when you really start to break it down, but it's something that I would never dream of going anywhere else. Like it very much becomes a part of your identity and your heart and how you move in life, right? That you just never look at animals and interacting with people in quite the same way
True.
that you listen very silently, and sometimes, right, that you don't need that pet to talk to you. You may not need that person to talk to you. That it's very easy to start a conversation and just naturally pick up on little social cues. So there's a lot of cool stories out there. And I think if we pause and listen and slow down a bit, it's great when you get to hear them.
Yeah.
So to your point of all the characters that you've met that
Oh my gosh.
with their clients, you'd be surprised sometimes. You're like, you do what as a career?
Exactly. Yeah, kind of amazing the
Their
stuff
stories even, right? In the
the
course of an
stories that people
appointment,
tell
what they're
you.
telling you, and you're just like, it was so cool to talk to you and learn this about you.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I once had one of my favorite stories is this kid who worked for me, just a kennel attendant while he was in school and before he went to college. And his mom was one of my great clients, but he was the most amazing kid. I mean, so smart. But he went to Washington, D.C. and for a week lived as a homeless person on the street. So
Oh,
he
wow.
could understand the experience of it. And I was like, Oh my gosh, he went on to med school, and I'm sure he is going to be probably one of the most empathetic doctors, and his patients are going to be amazingly lucky to have him. But he really wanted to know what that was like, because it was something that he was um, determined to do something about. So I wish I could track him down, but
Yeah.
just incredible people. People are amazing. And I think
Mhm.
that we've become very jaded here recently with everybody's being there's a lot of negativity. We look at clients, everybody's firing clients and, right and left. But when you look at people as, kind of big picture, and you step back and you look at all the cool stuff that people do, yeah, there are a few bad actors, but 90% of people are wonderful, and they do go out of their way for you. Just like you said, I used to tell people when I hired them, the first thing that will happen here is you will gain 10 pounds, because people will bring
Yeah,
us food. They bring us stuff all the time. It
their
is
love
true.
language for sure.
Yeah, it was true. Um, so, what advice would you give someone who was facing a big career decision? How would you coach them through making their decision?
Yeah, I definitely evaluate where are you at now and where would you like to go, and even like zoom that out a bit. That maybe that's a bigger life picture. Maybe you're looking to move to a different state or a different country, right? And start from some tangible point of where are you now, where are you looking to go, and maybe that's just specifically career related, right? And maybe that's financially motivated. Maybe that's a skill set motivation that you're looking to learn a new skill set when you're trying to achieve a certain status, right? With that you want to move into leadership, right? Or maybe you want to move into specialty medicine in some capacity, right? And move away from just general practice. You want that higher challenge, that additional responsibility.
Mhm.
And sometimes movements aren't always lateral. I think that's the common way we think of them, of up, right? But I think there's also horizontal movement that's out there.
Mhm.
So even if you're very content in what you're doing as a whole, but maybe you just want an additional level of challenge, or really just want to hone in and specialize on something, consider horizontal movements, right? That just a change of pace, something different that I think could be stimulating and create that sense of satisfaction.
Mhm.
If maybe you're feeling like you're, finding that curiosity, even that's something that's on the table that could satisfy that.
Mhm.
So really kind of bigger picture. And I think having conversations with others in the space of how did you move about this, right? To find somebody that you maybe look at as a role model.
Mhm.
How did you navigate that challenge? How did you handle that conversation? What did you find difficult in that transition? Similar to what we're doing now, right?
Mhm.
What was unexpected that came out of that role, or what was something that you thought was going to be totally cruiser chill and was a surprise, right? I think
Right.
those things
Yeah.
happen to the best of anybody's ability. I'm very much an overanalyzer. And the more and more I think you overanalyze, you realize how much you just can't plan 90% of
Right.
it.
Yeah, you
Um,
can only do
so
so much,
having,
and then the universe is going to determine what really happens here, is my
yeah,
belief. But I love the fact that you're talking about, like, talking to other people. One of the things that's has surprised me, and I'm sure is your role of manager, you probably interviewed veterinarians and technicians and assistants, is how many of them, especially when they're new, never investigated the job that they were
sure.
going to work in. They didn't know what was
Hmm.
involved in being an assistant or a technician or even a veterinarian.
Hmm.
And then when they get out, there's unrealistic expectations, I think, of what the job really is. And I think that may have a lot to do with some of the people who are, kind of short term into the profession, or uh, blaming the profession for not being what they thought it was supposed to be,
Hmm.
when the reality of the profession is, we're in a people business that sells medicine.
Yep.
And if we think that all we're going to do is play with puppies and kittens and save the world, we're not. That's not what it is at
Yep.
all. And it really is so much involved with, communicating with people, and I always call it making the client the hero of the story. And we tend to want to make ourselves the hero of the story, and we're not. And when
Yeah.
we learn the difference in that, our life, first of all, becomes much easier, because the clients are much more compliant when we're cheerleading for them, and rather than trying to be the authority all the time.
Totally.
and it takes some pressure off of us too, because then we don't have to be perfect. And
Yeah.
perfectionism is rampant in vet med, as we both know. So tell us a fun fact about you, other than the mountain biking stuff. Do you have a secret talent, a favorite song, something people would be surprised to know about you?
Oh gosh. Yeah, usually the mountain biking one's the big point of conversation because typically in some way there's crutches or a splint. I took it off to try to look normal, but my shoulder would normally be in a splint right now, actually. So I took it off to try to actually look presentable for once, but
Oh my
very
gosh.
much. I think those are exciting, thrilling stories that folks are usually excited to hear about. Of like, how'd you do it this time? So that's how a lot of clients would start conversations. Also do ice climbing, so that was always a big one that folks would be really interested in. As far as how did you get into that? How, kind of one of those scary things again. Of it's very daunting and seems overwhelming and scary, and trying to bring it back into manageable pieces of like, what's the first step to get into something new? Maybe it's acquiring gear, maybe it's just showing up and just shadowing and starting to make those friends who will help you through it, whether that's right career or personal decisions. And I think for Colorado, we're very fortunate to have all the outdoor and fun adventure activities, but they can be intimidating, right? They can have some serious risk. And I think we view our careers in the same way, right? We have reputations, we have investment, we have, financial considerations that they're big moves that we really like to put some thought and invest in. But I think realizing you're not alone, right? There's a lot of ways to show up and to start to align those expectations, that skill set, or what is your vision, right? To try to eliminate that gap in there. To your point that I don't know how many times, yeah, you go through an interview and it's mentioned so much that I love puppies and kittens, and that's why I want to do this. And the reality is puppies
Well,
are
how do you
trying to,
poop and
like,
pee and
they're
blood?
urinating on you and the client's frustrated,
Yes.
they've had a long, hard day. It's after their work day.
Yeah.
And it's so easy for us to pass judgment in both directions, right? As far as on the client, we've had a frustrating day. Why is this client, maybe being less than patient with us and kind in return, and vice versa. So I think right now life's just very, very busy, and we're very fortunate with the introduction and advancements in technology, but I think it gives us new opportunity and a lot of moving pieces that I think you can feel a little lost in at times.
Yes.
I think finding that Northern Star of, what are those values? What do you hope to achieve, in your life? Where do you want to be moving towards? And just start making those steps, even if they're small steps, right? So hiking a 14er, I don't know how many times I thought this was a great idea. I'm going to love a 20-mile hike at 2 a.m. Absolutely. Right. And, 12 miles in, you're like, never again. You do it again the next weekend, but you swear, you vow, you will never do this again. And by the end of it, you're like, well, I'm 12 miles in. I have to finish.
I might as well finish,
There's no option out. And I think in those moments, they're very unique in the introspective finding yourself that happens of like, all right, one foot in front of the other, and by the end of it, you're like, oh, I did that. That was cool.
I did it.
Well, right? And I think that's life, right? One foot in front of the other. So regardless of what you're trying to achieve, if that's a new hobby that you're trying to get into, if that's maybe a move physically to a new hometown, a career movement, whatever that might look like, take those small steps, right? Purchase a book, listen to blogs, right? Like, for example, this here. Reach out to those that, can start to help you move on that path, and really invest in yourself to do what you can do. What can you lean on and control?
You mentioned books. Do you have a favorite book that you would recommend to listeners?
The one I'm reading right now, can I show it? I'm actually really into this one. So travel a lot and I enjoy reading on planes, but this one right now.
Do Hard Things.
Called Do Hard Things. It's by Steve Magnus.
Okay.
Let me see it there. And really I enjoy it because it ties very much into this conversation, right? Of what was the definition of toughness? And previously it was just persevering, neglecting all thought to it, right? If it was suffering, if it was uncomfortable and painful, you just hammer it out. And really that's not really the case anymore, which we're very fortunate to have that opening to a bigger conversation, right? Of, toughness is really even starts from leadership, right? Leadership, teaching those skills, then giving that space of opportunity to practice those skills. So to your mention of the military, teaching those skills, giving them an opportunity to practice those skills. And then in the moment that we actually need to demonstrate those skills, right? It's not a shock to the system. This is not a survival moment any longer.
Mhm.
I think veterinary medicine can very much be the same thing of you need to place a catheter in a critical pet that just came in, right? That was hit by a car. We've practiced placing that catheter so many times that at that point we should be able to successfully do it, and it no longer has that stress around it, right?
Mhm.
And so it really is a cool book and a different perspective to what is toughness truly, and kind of breaking that traditional sense of just hammering ourselves out to, exhaustion, to burnout, right?
Mhm.
And it really doesn't have to be that.
Yeah.
And it's been fun to, I'm about halfway through. It's been fun to go through that book of whether that relates to career. We all have those difficult days, even when we love our jobs and our teams.
Mhm.
There's points of frustration and stress, whether that's, home life, athletics, right? So athletics right now is a big one for me as far as recovering from injuries.
Mhm.
And what does that progress look like to moving back towards what would be a healthy state for me in performance in athletics? And it's not just, the standardization of you can't be vulnerable and you can't say this is hard, right? No, you can say this is hard. And there's
Yeah.
people that hear you saying that and will support you through it and help you. Scary. It's saying you're vulnerable and it's taking a leap,
Yeah.
but in my experience, good things have come out of it. So really, really, really would encourage that book of kind of what is resilience and what is like toughness and how tough we actually are, and maybe just aren't realizing it because the conversation's not being held in that way. So
Yeah.
to give ourselves more credit.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I think we're tougher than we think. I think
Yes.
that's absolutely the truth.
Mhm.
But we have to give ourselves a little space and a little grace and
Mhm.
ask for help. That's the other thing that for me, I actually have just because I do have a network of people and I'm members of Vet Partners, which is the Association of Consultants and Advisors. If there's something that I don't know, I mean, I have a network of people who have done
Mhm.
it and can reach out to them and go, how did you do this? How did you get to be
Yep.
a speaker? Or how did you get to, talk to this company? Or how did you learn to write blogs? And so you have to be vulnerable because basically you're saying, I don't know how to do
Sure.
this. And
You're asking for help. Yeah.
yeah, and you're asking for help. But I've found that people enjoy teaching. They like to be
Yes.
asked. It's kind of
It's a compliment
a
that
compliment,
you
yeah, to
see
their
them as a
skill.
mentor and somebody with
Yeah.
expertise and knowledge that can assist you. And I think often people care a whole lot. And I think we're all too reluctant to accept help, right?
Yeah.
For some reason, it feels like a burden. I know I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
But then in reverse, I'd be so upset if somebody needed help and didn't reach out because they thought
And
it
they
would be a
didn't ask. Yeah,
burden.
and they didn't
Double
ask,
standards we hold for ourselves.
It's true, it's true. I just wrote a letter of reference for a sales rep that I had back in 2000. I mean, she was my rep before I left, managing, and she said, "I know that this is kind of a random reach out, but do you know anybody, right? Who do you know? Because they want this job in this area." I went, "Yeah." So, but she was a great rep, and she was really
Sure.
always at top of her job, and she was not intimidated by my 6'6" boss. So, and she was like 5'0", so
I am 5 foot tall, if it makes you
yeah,
feel
she was fearless. And so I wrote her a letter of reference and she was like, "Wow, I can't believe you did this." And I went, for me, it's a joy to help people and to be in a position
sure.
now that I can, and that it actually means something, if I'm writing you a letter of reference that somebody cares what I have to say. So, yeah, I'm pleased to do that kind of stuff for people. And I think most
Mm.
people are. So, here's our word of advice: reach out to people, they are going to be helpful to you. And the ones that are not worthy of your respect. So never mind. Just leave them
Yeah.
in the ditch, right?
Yeah, it's
Where they
really
belong.
fascinating how much we're all moving in parallels through the same things, but a bit just blind to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when you take those blinders off and actually start those conversations, how much you realize you're going through very similar things and you're not alone in this.
Yes.
Um, but it does require that vulnerability of starting that conversation,
Mm-hmm.
kind of making that leap, right? Whether that's changing your PIM system and trusting that somebody's going to help guide you through it, or a career change, again, a new hobby,
Yeah.
whatever it might be in your world, and how that translates, right? That you're not alone. And I think more and more coming out of the COVID conversations that we started to find that even globally we had something that we all were going
We
through.
all lived through the
Um,
same stuff. We did.
it's
We did.
fascinating.
Yeah.
My university degree is in sociology, so as far as how we move as people and our behaviors and the influence that we have on each other. It's really quite fascinating. Even the internal dialogue that we carry for ourselves. So again, that self-doubt of us telling ourselves that we can't do it and switching that dialogue to, no, Linda, you can do this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's quite interesting, the reverberations that happen off of that just single statement for yourself.
You can do it.
So reminding ourselves we can, and having those conversations with other people too.
I think that
For something
self-talk,
great.
that self-dialogue,
Yeah.
the most important thing that we can learn, because our brain doesn't know the truth from a lie. It only knows what you tell it. And so if you tell it, I can't, it believes you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you tell it, I can, it believes that too. So let's tell it you can, right? Well, Linda, this has been a true pleasure having you on the show. And I love the conversation and where it went. I never know, right? Right. I never know where it's going to end up.
Right.
But it's just such excellent advice. I think probably a lot of that comes from your coaching, right? You're coaching people to excellence, and knowing how to do that. And that's what we do as managers and as good leaders. We are truly coaches of each other. So thank you very much for your time today, and I appreciate it. And thank you again to the audience for listening to this episode of The Bend. We'll have Linda's information in the show notes so that you can ask her questions, get in touch with her, and we'll put the book reference so that you can connect with that and learn how to do hard things.
Thank you as well, Debbie. It was a great conversation.
Thank you. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.